Well, welcome everyone to this month's segment of Mental Health Moments. I'm Linda Golick. I'm the Health and Wellbeing Consultant at Bellin Health. So happy that you all are taking some time out with us today to focus a little bit on your mental health. So I'm so excited. We have a really great session today. A lot of wonderful, I think, practical content for all of us to be able to integrate some tips and some ideas on how we can just kind of continue to monitor our mental health and keep an eye on it, and little tips and tricks to improve it and keep it strong. So today, as always, we have our licensed behavioral health therapist, Charles Latour. Charles, how's your day going?
So far, so good. Thanks, Linda.
Good. And we're honored as our guest today. We have the Vice President of the Bellin Psychiatric Center, Debbie Patz. Hi, Debbie.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, thanks for being here. Always such a treat to have you on. So for those of you that maybe didn't see it mentioned or didn't see it on the calendar this last week, October 10th is World Mental Health Day. And so we want to take this opportunity to recognize that. It's a wonderful way that we're able to put a spotlight on mental health and bring it to the forefront so people are thinking about it, talking about it, inquiring about it, maybe paying attention to a couple more things in themselves and in others. So we're really going to focus on that today. So Charles, I want to start with you. So the theme this year is that we want to make our mental health as important as our physical health. And I could not agree more. It's such an important dimension. I always say that people are not going to cook healthy or run marathons if they don't have their mental health first. So important. But I wanted to start, Charles, with maybe if you can give us a little bit of background on World Mental Health Day and then other things that they've done throughout the years and kind of the progression that you've seen over the years with this special holiday.
Yeah, it's really great that we do this, and I think it's so important. And I guess even by way of introducing this, what I've done kind of with other programs with it, before I even get into more of the nature of it and why it's so important, I'm just going to ask people on this call, and you and Debbie as well, have any of you ever had just think yes to yourself, and I'm raising my hand like we were in a group all together. So just go along with it. Have any of you ever hurt your back? Have any of you ever hurt a shoulder or sprained an ankle or hurt your knee or had the flu or anything else physical? We all have had different things, horrible cold, anything like that, right? And I often do this with people and everybody, yeah, I had that. Yeah, oh yeah, that back thing. Oh, shoulder was terrible. And then I'll ask, how many of you have ever suffered from some anxiety? And all of a sudden, that question alone, people start to look around as they're less inclined to or depression, or family members with anxiety or depression, or anything else in that. And all of a sudden, the very question that's posed creates this sense of, uh-oh, that is different than being able to talk about my back or my shoulder. We even compare notes with backs and show, oh yeah, I threw mine out a while back. Oh yeah, I'm still recovering. Oh yeah, oh, I had that terrible virus a couple of weeks ago. It's still going around. We can even go into horror and war stories about those things. But when it comes to mental health, and to me, this is one of the beauties of this World Mental Health Day, is that getting to the point where we could be as comfortable with our mental health and talking about it as we are our physical health. There isn't stigma around hurting your back, but there's stigma around having a mental health issue. And with the back, we talk about it with, oh, did you L4, L5? Did you strain something? Nerve issues, sciatica. But when it comes to mental health, we don't have those type of, we have regular strategic medical wording for those issues. But when it comes to mental health, whack job, crazy, lunatic, bizarre, There's a certain kind of crazy, and those sorts of things. Starts with a bat, I won't say it, but you probably can know what I mean. We have so many things that are stigma related. World Mental Health Day is something that was started to help overcome this stigma, normalize that we have as likely a reason to struggle from the neck up as we do from anything from the neck down. And we have to be able to normalize this without stigma so that people are as invested in getting treatment from here up as they are and live as proactively and preventatively taking care of their mental health with as much vigor as they do their physical health. So that's why I think it's so important. And I've said this on this program on a number of occasions. We don't have overall health and well-being without our mental health. This all goes together. When we can realize that and appreciate that more collectively, we are going to be better. And by the way, I think we are getting better. Those names that I was calling out, we hear them less. I hear them less. I think they're less prevalent out there. I think they're less prevailing. I think there's more understanding. I think there's more sensitivity, but I think we still have a long way to go. So, World Mental Health Day, the first one was actually back in 2013. I'll read you some of what has topically been addressed. The first one in 2013 was mental health in older adults. 14 was living healthy life with schizophrenia. 2015 was dignity in mental health. 2016 was psychological first aid, which I will, tout and toot the horn for Bellin. Jody Anderson has been working with this now for a number of years, doing an incredibly great job. Her and the team that she works with, helping spread this psychological first aid word and helping people be directed to the appropriate resources that they need. Absolutely fantastic. I've sat through one of her programs and thought it was absolutely wonderful. So then we have mental health in the workplace, mental health in a changing world, focus on suicide prevention. Let's invest more in our mental health, and let's make mental health for all and care for all a reality. So, and now we're talking about making it a global priority on par with the health that we try to create physically. So that's some of the history there. As I said before, I think we've done a lot with it. This is great. I still hope we just keep doing more and more and more to decrease the stigma, increase the fact that it is okay to not be okay, and it is okay to seek help, to talk to somebody. We wouldn't hesitate to take care of ourselves when it comes to, like, let's say diabetes. We don't question once if we should go see somebody for that. But when it's mental health, we still have that trepidation. I really hope we can get over that hump.
Absolutely. Thanks for all of that, Charles. And Debbie, I want to shift it over to you, and I want you to just, maybe share your thoughts on where are we today in terms of how we're addressing mental health, and what role does Bellin play in that? What types of things do we have going on at Bellin to support our community?
Yeah, and I appreciate that question, Linda. I do think we've come quite a ways. I think of even 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and I think about people really did not talk about mental health at all. If it was right away, like Charles shared, it was looked at as they're different or something's not right, or why are they bringing this up? This wasn't part of the conversation, right? And I see more and more, like on Facebook, friends that'll talk about, I struggle with anxiety and I'm not perfect, but this is what it looks like, right? Or I struggle with OCD. It's not just that bad pun that we hear every now and then, or pick whatever mental health concern that they may have. And so for me, it's really comforting to see that people are sharing, because I think too many people sit in silence. They feel they may be shamed. They feel that they'll be looked at differently yet. And I really appreciate the World Mental Health Day because it's just another opportunity for us to be able to say, it's okay. You're not alone. A lot of people struggle with a lot of different things. Some of those things are mental, right? And we all have good days and bad days. And that's really what makes us appreciate probably the good days better. And how can we help each other through that? Because I think we have a ways to go to take care of what most people deal with silently and don't need to do it alone. Your question in regards to what are we doing here at Bellin, I think some really unique things that I have not seen in other workplaces. So I have the opportunity to sit on a weekly leadership meeting with all of Bellin leadership. And it was striking to me at first and in a really good way. I had never in my 25 years of experience prior to that working in healthcare seen or heard where we would have leaders say, we have this big change coming up. And by the way, this is going to affect people. This is going to affect them on a personal level. So don't forget to check in with them. Don't forget to take the time to sit down next to your employee and ask how they are doing, right? We had COVID hit, for example. Don't forget it's stressful at home and what can we do to help them? They are a person, regardless of, they can't just shut it off when they come to work and when they go home. And how do we help them through that? And I love that because eventually what that evolves to is really the culture of creating, are you okay? And I don't mean just physically. And I think people's natural reaction is to say, I see people need help. I see people are stressed, not me. I'm fine, right? But if we change that, and if we say, this is what I did for my mental health over the weekend, or this is what I did last night, and it just really helped me. This is how is everybody doing? If we rephrase that and we create a space where people are comfortable to talk about it, I think that's really some of those first initial steps. And eventually it just becomes part of the discussion, right? We want healthy employees. We want a healthy community. How can we help? We're a healthcare organization. We want to make sure, in addition, that people's mental health are taken care of well. It's just part of the conversation, which is really neat to be able to have an organization that's to that point, that looks at it from that viewpoint as well. And the more that we can spread that, the better off we'll be.
I so agree. And what I've really noticed at Bellin that I so appreciate is that we are able to have conversations, these really open, honest conversations. And I've heard these conversations and I feel free to say it. I may be saying something like, I need to let this go for my own mental health. Or I hear my coworkers talking about, I need to take a couple hours of PTO because I need that mental break. And I'm so excited when I hear those conversations because it is people being honest and open and just really saying, hey, this is what I'm doing for my mental health. So even those little things can be so impactful, And I do appreciate at Bellin that is just continuing to evolve. So it's very cool to witness. So today, for all of you, what we decided to do, Charles and Debbie and I have put together a top 10 list. So a top 10 list of practical ways for you to focus on your mental health, strengthen it, improve it, pay attention to it, all these wonderful things. And we are going to start out with a little bit of a breathing exercise today. So this is, for those of you, maybe some of you have heard of this, it's a box breathing exercise. So what I invite you to do is think of it as a box. We're going to inhale for 4 breaths. We're going to hold it for a count of 4. We're going to exhale for a count of 4. And then we're going to hold again for a count of 4. So it's almost like you're creating this box. And I'm going to do some counting for you in the beginning. But then I'm just going to let this lovely music play and just allow you to continue to do that breathing. We're just going to focus on our breath. And this is something that you can close your eyes if you choose to and just kind of focus on that breath. But we're going to do this for a full minute because I really want to see how everyone feels after that minute of box breathing. Okay? So we're going to start with that inhale. Count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4. Again, we're going to inhale. Hold it. Exhale. And hold. And keep that breathing going. And one more breath. And exhale. I know we could probably do this for the rest of the session. We have some other content to get to. I'm hoping that that felt good for you. Any changes that you're noticing after that was literally 1 minute and 15 seconds of breathing. And so sometimes if we feel like we need that break and we feel like we don't have time, I really invite you to take a minute. I put a timer on my phone and I could just see that 1 minute had gone by. I think all of us can take a minute. We can take a minute. So awesome. Oh, and Liza noticed how much tension she's holding. Yes, breathing will help you recognize that as well. Great. I hope you enjoyed that. So keep that in your toolkit of stuff that you can do that can help you. So I want to share now. This is our top 10 list, and we started with that wonderful box breathing, and we're going to continue on here on our list. Of course, the box is in my way because that's just the way it goes. So we started with the box breathing. Number 2 is setting boundaries with your phone. I think we live in a society where we are constantly looking at the sky, right? And it's constantly going off and distracting us. And there's a lot of research that shows that that really just causes extra anxiety in us. So my encouragement to you is to think about how you can set some boundaries with your phone. And here's just a few ideas. Perhaps you charge it in another room and keep it away from you. I know I do that at night. I have an alarm set in a different way. I keep my phone away from where I sleep because I want that break. You can put do not disturb on your phone. I know I have a coworker that takes walks, and she will put the do not disturb on her phone so that she can get that break. And even just things like encouraging your children to not have their phones at dinner time. You know, again, setting that boundary. So really consider how much you're using your phone. I've also seen that there are timers that you can set, even on social media platforms, so that you don't get caught up in that for too long. Just important to use that device and maybe not let it distract you sometimes. Number 3 that I wanted to cover is meditating. And I know even myself, years ago, I thought, I can't meditate. I have all this stuff going on in my head, and I can't take a break and just focus on my breathing or whatever that is. And a previous job I had, I was noticing that everybody was really stressed out, and we started what we called Meditation Mondays. And we would just gather in a small conference room on Mondays at the lunch hour, maybe 10, 15 minutes. I would bring up a YouTube video of just some soft music, just like what I just did for the box breathing. And we would just sit together and meditate. And meditating, there's no magic trick to it. You can't do it wrong. It really just is focusing on your breathing. You're going to notice thoughts coming and going all the time. That's entirely normal. You can't do it wrong. And a particular tip that I got from a woman that we had do a little nature therapy session here at Bellin was one way to meditate. For those of us that maybe aren't so good, we need something visual, is to meditate outside in nature and get your eyes focused on something that's moving. So that might be a bird. It might be the leaves that are rustling in the wind. It might be a little bug zipping around. It can be anything. Focus your attention on that and just watch that. And that's actually a form of meditation. So those are the three that I wanted to cover. I'm going to pass it on to Debbie, and she's going to go through the ones on her list.
All right, for my three, I don't know if we get the same, just to make sure we're the same order. There we go. All right, for my three, so my first one is to start your day with affirmation. I will do this myself, as well as sometimes I do this with my children too, or my husband for that matter. Sometimes I look at it at our huddle opportunities and where can we also share that affirmation. Today is going to be a great day, and that can come in a variety of sources. It is so much easier to start out with that mindset. And oftentimes we think about all the things we have to do in the day. And I know for me, my mind goes to my most difficult conversation that I know I'm going to have with somebody that day, or my difficult meeting, or something that I really dread having to do, put together, just a PowerPoint or whatever it is, instead of, oh my goodness, I get to meet with one of my coworkers and I get to tap into them on their knowledge of something, or I get to have coffee with a friend, or whatever it may be. So for really that opportunity to start out your day with affirmation is just a great frame of mind to be able to set up. And sometimes for people that this may be hard, when we talk about people addicted to their phones, there are opportunities out there as well to have daily affirmations come to you. And how does that pertain to you? So if you're somebody who's saying, I just don't know that I would think of that myself, take up those opportunities to be able to look and have a daily affirmation come to you each day. Let that be your reminder, whether that's by email, whether it's a Facebook group, but there's plenty of opportunities out there as well to have that affirmation come to you if it's something that resonates with you more that way as well. My next one is to keep a gratitude journal. This one I actually like to do in the evenings. So I like to be able to write down at least 3 things good that happened to me that day. It is really, again, easy just to go to those things that were difficult. For me, I forget to celebrate. And that is such an important part of mental health and being able to be fulfilled and satisfied. And when I have the opportunity to write down 3 things that I'm grateful for each day, it really becomes a very easy practice. There are a lot of things that we take for granted. And again, it's really easy to be hard on yourself. But when you take the time to just step back and say, but what are some of the really good things that happened today? I got to work out with somebody who pushed me. I got to take my kids to school and come into work late. I had the ability to do that today. Some of those things just are amazing when you get the chance to reflect where otherwise you normally wouldn't. And this practice really becomes very easy after a period of time. It's very easy to go from 3 things to 5 things, but 3 things keeps it relatively simple. So I highly encourage the gratitude journal. And then my last one is really pause and listen. I am one who I feel like I have 1,000 things going on at once. I want to make sure I don't forget anything, whether it's related to work, whether it's related to home or otherwise. And for me, one of the things that works really well is to pause and listen. So when I feel overwhelmed, when I feel like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I forgot that, or I've got to do ABCD today and my day is overwhelming, it is really that time to pause and listen, right? So, and this was something that can be done with others or by yourself. I can be outside. I can be in my car on my drive here. I can turn my radio down. I can be outside on a walk and pause and listen and hear the leaves. Or I could do it when I'm having a conversation. Maybe I'm just overwhelmed and I need to pause intentionally and just listen to what they're really saying. Maybe I'm interpreting it incorrectly. And so that pause and listen just kind of becomes that reset for me, and it can for you as well. To be able to say, okay, what else is happening? Let's clear the mind a little bit. There's so much going around. Let's just listen. Okay, now I can move forward. So those are my 3 things that I would like to share with you, and I hope that you find them helpful in your journey as well.
Thank you, Debbie. All such great information. And I think the thing I thought of with the gratitude journal was a little tip. I shared this once before, but this is just kind of a neat thing that I have found to work really well. My husband and I have mason jars at home, and every week you have to put in at least one good thing that happened throughout the week, and then we date them. And then at the end of the year, we go back and we visit that, and we look at all the wonderful things that happened that we can be grateful for. And you can do more than one a week, but at the end of the week, you just have to make sure that you did at least one. And then we have envelopes throughout the years because we've been doing it for a few years now. And it's just a really cool thing to focus on the good in life. And it's powerful. It's powerful in a really simple way.
Absolutely.
So Charles, I'm going to advance the slide here for you. And we'll hand it over to you.
All right. While you were lining that up, I was going to show you the mason jar of being able to do the exercise that you were mentioning, being able to put in. I do it with regard to what's possible for you. Looking at possibilities. But I got to say, Debbie, hearing you capture those areas and then being able to say when I'm overwhelmed, you always sound so calm. It's hard to imagine you overwhelmed. So whatever you do, it works great. So I hope people can really tap into those. So yeah, let me out the remaining to capture our top 10. By the way, just so everybody knows, we did 10 for 10. So we wanted 10 for the October 10th, always keeping that 10th in our minds. So celebrating small wins is not a small thing to do. This is a big thing. I work a lot with athletes, and one of the things I find most difficult in their mentality is not celebrating a win. It's like whatever it is okay, well, what do I have to do next? Okay, well, I did good there. What's next? They're always looking at that what's next. And in a way, that's great to be able to move forward, but you have to be able to savor the small wins in life. There's even neuroscience that tells us savoring the good is one of the best things that we can do to help us. The more we're able to celebrate and stay in the moment and do that, the better off we are. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is this notion of gratitude. I'm going to go a little bit out of order because I want to tie the last 8 and 9 together. But taking moments of gratitude, if you don't take those moments, you might not be able to do what Debbie was talking about in journaling. So we have to be mindfully aware enough during the course of the day to take those in to be able to even reflect later on in the evening. So gratitude is great when we can write it, but even as important to celebrate it in a moment, see what we're grateful for, but also the why. Why are we grateful? And when we connect to what it is and why, and it can be the smallest things. It goes back to the wins. The little things that we're doing, most of our wins come small and incrementally rather than this really great thing that happened. So to me, the gratitude and the ability to have small wins is our way of saying we're getting better. We're getting better in this thing that we call the game of life. We're getting better in taking care of ourselves, and we're celebrating getting better. That's what it's all about, right? Are we able to get better, better tomorrow than today, better today than yesterday? And celebrating these wins and being grateful for what we have, who we have in our lives, those sorts of things really help. So taking regular breaks to reset. So I often tell this story about two people chopping wood, and one person took consistent breaks throughout the day. The other one did not. When they were done cutting it all up, the one who did not take breaks asked the other person, "How did you do that? Every time I saw you and looked up, it looked like you were taking a break." And the person said, "Yeah, well, you may not have noticed, but when I took the break, I sharpened my axe." That we have this thing, the most prevailing difficulty we have in work affecting our mental health is our ability to take strategic breaks. What we know about the two cycles of life, circadian and ultradian, is that one is that every 90 minutes, if we don't take one, every form of cognitive functioning starts to diminish, starts to decrease, and the breaks help reset it. So being able to do that is going to be one of the best things that you could possibly do. And even starting out your day in a positive way, setting the stage to be able to be your best is going to be remarkably helpful. Talking to a therapist, and this ties into what Debbie was talking about early on. When we get okay with not being okay, then we have to figure out, what are we going to do about that? What's my strategy? What's going to help me? Is it more exercise? Is it better sleep? Is it meditation? And is it talking more with friends? Is it connecting more with family? Any of those things can help your mental health. We all have mental health. It's on a continuum. There isn't anybody who doesn't have mental health. It's more where our mental health is and what we're doing to take care of it. Just like we all have physical health. What are we doing to take care of our physical health? Debbie used the comment, you don't have to do it alone. And in taking care of our mental health, sometimes the person that can be most influential and helpful in us helping do that is talking to someone. And that someone can be a professional. That someone can be a therapist. That's what we are here for. So being able to talk to a therapist, there's nothing more problematic with you for wanting or electing to do that than talking to your primary care physician. And one day, I hope we can all see it in that fashion. So talking to a therapist in and of itself can be a great starting point to nurturing your mental health.
You're muted. Linda, I think you might be muted.
While we're waiting to unmute, can I say okay, are you back, Linda?
Go ahead, Charles.
I wanted to say one other thing about what you had said about meditation and how great it is, and working with a lot of people on that concept. Most people struggle with it, and most people say it's not for me. I think it's kooky. I think it's weird. I think you got to be out there to do it. And I'll do either breathing to start, or if they're spiritual, we'll talk about prayer, and they'll say, yeah, I guess prayer is like a form of meditation. So there's so many ways to do it. But one thing that I've encouraged people to look at it as, and I think we're getting there, is it's like what I felt about running 45 years ago when I started running, people thought you were kooky for running. If you're running, you're not being chased by the police or a car or a dog or anything. No, just went out for a run. Why would anybody on earth do that? You had to be somewhat out there in your thinking to go out and run. Now, today, and for the last 30 years or so, we've celebrated something called the running boom, where we have the Bellin 10K, women's half marathon, the Green Bay Celcom marathon. We have marathons throughout the country, throughout the world, and no one thinks twice about going out for a run or judging anybody for going out to a run. It doesn't mean it's for everybody, but we're totally okay with it. I hope that we get to the day that we're the same way with meditation. And I think that's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years because it's unmistakable what it does for you. And unlike running, you don't have to go out and brave the elements. You don't have to get new shoes. You don't have the warmest clothes or whatever. You could just sit down and do it. So I really think that we're going to see the same thing with maybe not exactly the same, but definitely the bump in meditation like we did with running from 30, 40 years ago. And at least I hope so.
I think so too, Charles, because there's just so many more tools out there too to help people, having those tools to help them meditate. So I just wanted to read some of what was in the chat so that both of you could see this. And I also put in the chat, if anyone else wants to share your tips on how you focus on mental health, we would love to hear that, and we would love to see that shared with everyone. So Maureen put, my rule, no phones in the bedroom at night. I love that, Maureen. Also, Kelly put, gratitude journaling is huge. I started mine January 1st, 2020, which ended up being really good timing, given what came next. Yes, Kelly, that was fantastic. Maureen also put, receive a daily positive statement via email from invigoratedaily.com. So that's a great tip. Then we also have, someone said they're going to try that, Maureen, so that's awesome. Ann put, I use the Calm app for a variety of things, meditation, the daily move, daily wisdom, relaxing music, sleep stories. Fantastic. And Liza put, yay for the influence of exercise on mental health. Yes, agreed. Agreed, Liza, for sure. Lisa put, doing things you love. Don't deny yourself. Beautiful. Jamie put, tree bathing. Let's see, fancy way to say hiking in the forest. Yes, perfect. And Liza said, sharing this link as Bellin Fitness is offering free guided meditations and sound therapy. Cool. Both are awesome experiences. So there's a nice link in the chat there if anyone wants to check that out. So lots of great information. I'm so glad to hear so many people in our audience are doing things that they are paying attention to their mental health. So fantastic. We have about 5 minutes left, so if anyone else has something they want to put in the chat, feel free to do that. But as we kind of wrap up what our audience is doing for their tips and tricks, I just want to toss it back over to Charles and Debbie one more time with any final thoughts as we kind of wrap up our top 10 here today. So Debbie, I'll start with you.
Sounds good. Well, thank you all for letting me share 3 of my things that I do. My challenge actually to each of all of you is to either pick one of these things and do them yourself if you're not already, or find a way to ask somebody else how they are doing with their mental health, their overall health. What does that look like? Once you practice that a bit, it gets a bit easier, but it truly does make a difference to others. And that's truly how we're going to start making some of that difference when it comes to mental health awareness. So my challenge to all of you is to be able to practice that with each other, and hopefully that will help us break some of that stigma. Thank you. I'll hand it over to Charles.
Yes, yeah, thank you. And again, Debbie, thanks for being here today and covering the items that you did and in the way that you did it. It's amazingly super helpful. So thank you so much. the things that you covered, and I love some of these the things people chimed in on. It makes me think really in the grandest of all schemes. Basically, what we're dealing with is making sure we have it on our radar screen to begin with. That's number one, our mental health. Secondly, making sure we're getting recovery, time for ourselves. Anytime we're taking recovery, we're recharging the body battery, the brain battery. It's all one. So a lot of those comments were geared in that direction, being able to do that. And sometimes we aren't compassionate enough with ourselves. We don't take the same advice that we would give other people. And because we have to be tougher, we have to just be able to do this, we have to just be able to go and do. But other people would say, oh, you need recovery, you got to take care of yourself, you have to have your mental health on your radar screen, take my advice, I'm not using it right now, that sort of thing. But we have to be able to do that, because all of these things that give us recovery help our mental health. And no matter how great we are, no matter how strong we are, those recovery processes, strategies, interventions can be preventative to aiding our mental health. And as I always like to say, even a Ferrari without gas is just another parked car. So we all need, regardless of what rev we have, we need the recovery. We need to take time for ourselves, be at least as supportive and compassionate with ourselves as we would be with friends, and take that time to nurture our health and do it hopefully with the great vigor that we do our physical health, because it's that important. And October 10th every year is a reminder for us to do that. But hopefully it isn't a one-day-a-year event, something that we can spread out throughout the year. So thank you.
Couldn't agree more, Charles. I think we all need to remember to give ourselves grace. We are human beings. We're not robots. We need to take that time to recharge. We need to do those things to care for ourselves in that mental capacity and in the other dimensions of well-being. So we hope that you got some valuable information from our session today. Thank you, Debbie and Charles, as always, for so much great information for our audience. We'll be sending this out as a recording, so please feel free to share if you feel like there's someone in your life that could use some of this content. We really encourage you to do so. You can also find this as a podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so look us up there. So thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.